Hangout with Coach Kerry. My name is Kerry Brown, and I am a licensed professional business coach. I've been coaching entrepreneurs, small business owners, solo entrepreneurs, whatever title you may call yourself, for almost 17 years. And I will tell you that there is probably no situation that it would be new to me. And the good news is most issues that you're dealing with today are pretty normal. And the good news is there's also normal solutions to them, or common solutions to them. So that's what we're here to do, provide you with ideas, some strategies, some coaching to help you be more successful in your business. You can go and watch past episodes of Hangout with Coach Kerry on hangoutwithcoachkerry.com. Make sure you spell Kerry, K-E-R-R-Y, and there are past episodes there. And it'll give you an opportunity to get a real sense of all the little pieces that it requires for you to be successful in business. If you're a brand new person, if you're a startup, or if you're seasoned in the business and you just want to up your game in terms of some of the aspects of your business, I'm sure there's some great information there. Today, I am joined by one of my Academy members, Dr. Diana Galbraith, and she hails out of Victoria, British Columbia, which is where I do as well, both on the very west coast of Canada. And Diana, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience and tell them a little bit about what you do and what you offer to people and how they can reach you.
Thank you, Kerry. Well, I am a former family physician, but what I do now actually is I work with women over 40 who have really invested a lot of time and energy into their business, into their families, and in the process they've lost their health, and they might be carrying extra pounds, they might find that their energy is really lagging, or they might even be dealing with things like their blood pressure starting to increase, concern about diabetes. Anyways, what I do is I look at their whole lifestyle, and I come up with a plan and work with them through that plan to really help them get to where they want to be in their health. So kind of what you do with business, I do with health. And they can reach me actually at my website, which is healthtalks.ca.
Great. Excellent, Diana. And I know you've got some great tips and strategies on there for them, so please do go. And of course, I'm sure any of those tips and strategies could also be useful for any male entrepreneurs out there too, who might find themselves struggling with weight or overwhelmed as well. So today's a Q&A call, and so I've tasked Diana to ask me some questions because, again, as I said, common issues being in business often have common solutions, and these are my answers to questions based on the experience I've had, as I said, coaching people just like you for many years. So Diana, what might be your first question for Coach Kerry today?
Thanks, Kerry. Well, as a solopreneur, we often end up trying to run the whole show ourselves, and often it becomes a bit, or we feel like it's a necessity because we're just getting started. We're very conscious of how much we're spending. So my question is, when, in that perspective, when do you consider outsourcing? Like, when should you look at other people doing things that maybe you don't find that interesting, or you're not that talented at? So when to take the step of outsourcing?
Great question, and it's a multi-pronged answer to that, because often what business owners will do is they will hire someone to do something that they're not good at, but they don't understand it themselves. And so one of the first premises is to understand whatever you're outsourcing first yourself. So, for example, if you decide that you want to hire a bookkeeper, you have to be able to understand basic bookkeeping principles. In other words, when they give you your financial statements or any kind of financial reporting, that you can actually understand it so that it's meaningful for you. So there's a difference between delegation and abdication. And I'm going to say that again. There's a difference between delegation versus abdication. And I'm all for delegating, and I'll get to when to delegate in a moment. But I want to challenge you right now to ask yourself, is there any area that I really am thinking I just want to abdicate because I don't enjoy doing it or I don't understand it? And if that's the case, the first question is really you don't want to abdicate, you want to delegate. So then how do you make that decision? Well, for a lot of people, especially the solopreneurs who are listening, their goal in terms of their business is often not to ever have an employee. They don't want that responsibility. They don't want that obligation to someone else's livelihood, and that's fair enough. However, in terms of being able to grow or scale your business, you are going to have at certain times other people doing certain things for you. There's absolutely no way that I've seen yet in my 17 years as a coach that someone could be running a successful business where they're doing all the parts of it themselves. Now, there's a caveat there, and success, of course, is different to each and every one of us. So if one of the criteria for success is that you do want to do everything in your business and you're okay with your income or your reach to be limited, then fair enough. But I'm going to assume that the reason most of the people are listening to this, and Diana, you asked me that question, was because you want to know how to be able to scale your business, how to be able to leverage what you have and be able to reach more people, potentially make more money as a result of that. Would that be a fair question?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay, great. So the first place to start is to start by creating what I call a organizational chart. Now, you might say to yourself, well, it's just me. Why would I have to do that? Well, this is where you're going to get your clues on where you're going to outsource or delegate first. So there's some basic principles in creating an organizational chart, accountability chart, if you want to call it that, function chart, is you're going to start at the top. And at the very top is the name that you're going to write in the various shareholders in your business. So you may be the person working in your business, but there may be someone who has financially invested in your business. So they would be a shareholder because at a certain point they would have a say, or at least hopefully you've structured it so that you know when they have a say and when they don't have a say and how much autonomy you have and you don't have. So let's assume that's been fleshed out. Then what you would do is you would draw basically a line, and then below that are the people actually working in the business. So that's where you would have CEO, president of the company, and that often for, again, people, the solo entrepreneurs in the business, that would be you. People who even have, a couple of employees, that would still probably be you. Then what you're going to do is draw a direct line underneath that, and then out on a horizontal line, you're going to actually put the various divisions in your business. And we're going to make it really simple, and I would really encourage you, if this is the first step at this, that you really try and not make it complicated. I look at so many organizational charts that people have put together, and they make it far too complicated. So really, there's about 3 main functions in an organization. One of them is what's called sales and marketing. And without sales and marketing, there's really no business there because you have to have customers or clients. Would you agree with me on that one, Diana?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, great. So the first thing is you've got a vice president of sales and marketing. And your name would go in that. In fact, your name would probably go in all of those. And then below each one of those, you're going to have a stream that's going to go down. So under the marketing department, or under that manager, are going to be the various functions in which you're talking about hierarchically moving from important all the way down to the lower level activities that are there. So if you were going to look at accountability, you would look at it from the bottom up. So the blocks at the very bottom of the sales or the marketing column, who they would report to will be the person above and the person above or the person above, or at least in terms of communications, to make sure that all decisions are being vetted all the way through the organization. So you would do that. And then you would do that the same thing for another department, which is called operations. And really operations, so vice president of operations, is really the deliverable or the delivering of whatever product and service that you provide to the marketplace. So for you, Diana, that would be your programs, that would be your coaching programs, that would be anything that you actually provide to your consumer in the marketplace.
Okay.
And again, you're going to start at the top and you're going to work all the way down through all of those various job functions, all the way along the way. So how do you know what those job functions are if it's just you and right now you feel like you're a one-armed paper hanger, so to speak? Well, you start tracking that. And how do you start tracking that? I suggest maybe a clipboard or a spiral notebook on your desk where you're going to start tracking the various things that you do during the day and then determining which particular department that they might fit within. And then you're going to go all the way up to the top. Then the other one column or heading is Vice President of Finance and Administration. And that kind of holds the glue together between the two of them. Sales, and your Vice President of Sales and Marketing is the one responsible for getting and bringing in new customers. Your operations, on the other hand, is the part of the organization that actually delivers, that provides the customer service, that provides the product, the engagement with the customer throughout the time you're working with them and in future as well. And the Finance and Administration is the piece in the middle in there. So obviously that deals with the generation of reporting in terms of what your income is, budgeting, looking at all of the various receivables that you've got, if you've got those, all of the pieces regarding finance, and what are the pieces of those, and who's taking care of those. And then administration, of course, that's the detailed, the back end, the support work that's there to make sure those two other divisions operate really clearly. So you flush this out, and again, it can be on a piece of paper. It doesn't have to be fancy. You can go on, and there are organizational chart software programs if you are a tech person, if you like. I'm a real fan of an open source program called bubble.us. So it's bubbl.us. And you can go in, and you can have three kind of mind map organizational charts that you can create yourself. You can print them off, and you've got them. So now to your question, Diana. How do you decide when? Mm-hmm. Well, you start delegating from the bottom up. So what that means is that when it comes to organizing, let's say, your website, loading blog articles on there, if that's something that shows up on the bottom end of your operations, then that's something you would delegate out at the very bottom.
Oh, okay.
You could, if it's going to be, let's say, social media or a marketing strategy or posting things, whatever, whether it falls under marketing and sales or whether it falls under operations or whether it falls under finance and administration, you start delegating from the bottom up. Because if you were to put in your organizational chart a dollar symbol, the higher up the chart, the greater number of dollar signs should go against that if you were going to be paying salaries to all of those people. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, so the CEO obviously is the highest paid in the organization. Then your vice presidents of those various different columns are going to be paid the next highest. And then going down below there all the way to the very bottom where you would have one single dollar sign. So you start delegating bottom up. That's how you do it, and that's the easy way to know when when to do it. Is, well, first of all, your name. If you're a solo entrepreneur, your name is in all of those functions. So where do you start first? Well, you start with the lowest paying things, and you delegate out those first. Now, there's a whole other episode where we can talk about how to train people, how to hold people accountable, how to make sure that you've got your policies and procedures in place so that when you ask someone to do something, they follow your way of doing it. Because I hear it consistently over and over again, one of the most frustrating things for people is that in fact they delegate, the people don't do what they ask them to do. Well, really, that's a training issue, and it's an issue around accountability.
Right.
So does that raise any other questions for you, or is there any other clarification in that, Diana, that you might want regarding that process of how to know when to delegate?
I don't think so. Yeah, that made it quite clear. So it's more the easier, the mundane, the less specialized tasks, obviously the ones that would cost the least, to outsource. That's where you start. Whether it's it could be any one of those three categories, but it's starting at the bottom.
Yes, exactly. So let's do a for instance. Let's say you're not really fond of collecting all of your, well, you're going to be collecting your receipts because you're the one who's going to be spending the money in your business. You're not that fond of tallying them all up and at every month, getting a status in terms of where your expenses are versus your income. So doing an income and expense sheet. So you decide that you're not going to do that. That you know how to do that, but this is something at lower level that you're going to hire out a bookkeeper to do that. So the first thing that you do not do is hire somebody who's going to be in that vice president of finance department and do that all for you. You're going to hire a bookkeeper who's still going to report to you, and you're going to still look over those reports, and you're going to determine if your expenditures are exceeding your income. You're going to determine whether your expenditures are on budget. That's your job to do that. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes. Can you do that for the marketing angle now, where you would start?
Sure, absolutely. For example, my Google Hangouts. This Hangout is even while the audience and you are receiving this in terms of a no cost, it is a way to get my expertise out in the marketplace. So that would be deemed to be a marketing strategy for me. So there are some pieces around that in terms of getting the whole details all set up, getting the agendas, creating the content, schedule, all of that, that I can drive that information. I don't need to be doing the actual work of it. I can have somebody else be setting up the Hangouts, to be sending out reminder emails to panelists, to post things on various social media sites for me for that. I know what the plan is, and I'm the one who creates the plan. I don't have to be the person doing the actual work of that. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, that was good.
Great, excellent. And of course the same thing with operations. If I want, as part of my strategy is to provide great customer service to my clients, and one of them is from time to time to have a handwritten note or to be reaching out to them with certain different kinds of strategies, I don't necessarily have to be doing the work of that. I can have somebody set that up. I set up what the templates are going to be. I set up what scripts are going to be used in terms of a follow-up or a touch with a client, whatever it needs to be. However, I'm not necessarily the one who's doing that. I could have someone else schedule my coaching calls, for an example. I could have somebody else do all the scheduling and the planning of my MasterMind groups. I don't have to do that work. I'm the one who's actually out there creating more customers that are out there. So the real question is that, and this is a phrase that I'm very fond of using. If you've listened to my previous Hangouts, you'll know I say it. A woman by the name of Patricia Fripps, who is a well-known public speaker, she has a quote that I use often, and it goes like this: "There is no sense in doing well that which you shouldn't be doing at all." I'm going to say it again. There is no sense in doing well that which you shouldn't be doing at all. So there may be things that I really like to do, like I might really like stuffing envelopes, but really there is no sense in me doing that well, because really my use in the organization is for a higher level use of really going out and generating new business. That's really my job, and as a small business owner, a solopreneur, that's your job, is to go out and be the rainmaker for your business, to be out there generating new business for your business, new clients, new customers, making those sales. There's stuff that is the back end, the support piece of that's where you want to delegate.
Excellent.
Good. Excellent. Good. So do you have one more question for me today?
Sure. How about something along a different line? Because you've coached many people. Oops. Sorry, my earphone keeps falling out here. To be a successful entrepreneur, what would you consider the most important habits to get set up right from the beginning?
Great question. And I've observed this over my almost 17 years as a coach, as I mentioned. And what I would say is that it's continuous for everyone, to continually be improving and getting better. We never really arrive there. But there's a few of them. I've noticed that people who are successful have developed the habit of being persistent. And what I want to say is these actually go in conjunction with others. So persistence on its own won't necessarily create success, because if you persist on doing something over and over again that actually isn't a well thought out idea in the marketplace, you'll still struggle with success. So you want persistence combined with continuous learning. In other words, always be willing to get coaching, to get mentoring, to be learning the skill of business, because most people who start businesses really know nothing about business models. So business acumen, be open to that continuous learning. Another one is that I think it's really important that you learn the skill of planning. So stepping back and taking that big picture view of your business and plan. And even if you plan short term to begin with and then start expanding that as you develop that muscle, that ability to be able to plan and strategize longer term. And then as important is to review. It would be no different if you decided you were going to take a trip somewhere and you got in your vehicle and you started driving, but you never consulted the map. You might end up heading off to Florida and you might find yourself in New England before you know it if you didn't check to see where you are along the way. So constant planning and constant reviewing. Reviewing at the end of every day, reviewing at the end of every week, reviewing at the end of every month of where you are along that planning process. So those two go hand in hand with each other. One of them, which may not be as commonly thought of or seems as self-evident, is I've noticed that a lot of entrepreneurs fall in love with their own ideas. And the reason is because our rationale, the logic, the information that we've looked at has come from our worldview, which wants our idea, that thing that we're excited about, to work. So we tend to ignore evidence to the contrary. So it's really important that you have other people challenge your notions, that you get good input. And I'm going to suggest that friends and family, while well-meaning, they don't want the responsibility of giving the bad news to you, that maybe your idea isn't a good one. I've heard so many entrepreneurs say, as they're struggling, that everyone says this is a great idea. Well, maybe the everyone you're speaking to aren't the people who are willing to actually say to you and challenge you on your ideas. And if at the end of the day, by challenging your ideas, you've defended them, and you can actually make the case for whatever it is, then you've at least looked at all sides rather than just through your rose-colored glasses. So they've developed the habit of not falling in love with their own ideas, which I think is really critical. And I've talked about that MasterMind idea. That's one of the ways that you can do that, where you can have another group, another set of people who their vested interest is really to help you be successful by challenging. Now, their ideas may actually not be the right ones, but they're going to challenge you to think things through a little bit further, challenge your assumptions. Certainly an excellent business coach will do that for you as well. I will often say to my clients, okay, sell me on that idea. I'll often say, you know, in your business, go ahead and buy toilet paper and paper clips and pens and anything else, the basics that you need. But when it comes to making any decision about your business, you've got to sell me on it first. Because if not, it's so easy. I mean, Diana, can you think of a time when you fell in love with an idea of something that the good news was you actually got challenged on it from some source, and you realized at the end of the day that it wasn't the decision to make?
Well, I can think of times, not related to my business, more related to other areas, but I can think of times where I didn't go and get external opinions, and looking back, I can really wish that I had, because what we thought was a good idea was not a good idea. So more in retrospect, I can look at times, and maybe that's just the way we're patterned, that we can remember the times when things don't go the way we thought they should.
Absolutely. And when that happens, use those as learning opportunities. You know, use those as opportunities to ask yourself, okay, how was it that I came to that decision? You know, what kind of research did I do? I wrote a blog post a while ago because I had read a blog post of someone else's and it seemed to make sense. But it was really about getting to the point where when there's a decision to be made, that you get to a place where it's called the choiceless decision, where really you've done so much research that there's clearly one path or another path. And sometimes that decision is not what you originally had thought it was going to be. So just take that time to be able to research. I think that's really, really important. So those are my habits that I see every single day. You know, and of course on top of that, with persistence comes the power of focus. To get in a vehicle and drive it for quite a while before you're changing vehicles and you're going in a different direction. You know, so often entrepreneurs can get struck with that that next shiny thing syndrome, and they never really have an opportunity to get some traction because their expectations didn't give themselves long enough to test something out. And I think it's really important to have that kind of longer view on any strategies that you have. So that stick-to-itiveness, that persistence, that focus is really a key piece. And that's why I picked it as the number one habit to have.
Okay.
Great. Well, thank you, Diana, for your questions today. I hope our audience found them to be useful and valuable. Please go back and listen to previous episodes where we've talked about systems and time management. And please do ask me what you'd like to, or you know, what questions you'd like to see me cover on these Monday morning Hangout with Coach Kerry's. From time to time, they'll be at random times, depending upon whether I'm traveling. My goal is to model for you how you can have a business that provides the lifestyle for you that I've created with mine. That as a coach, I have to be living that lifestyle that I'm encouraging all of you to create. So thank you for the opportunity to let me inspire you today, Diana.
You're welcome.
And thank you, my audience, for watching this episode. Share it with other people. Give it a plus on YouTube. And don't forget to check out hangoutwithcoachkerry.com for upcoming episodes and other free tools and resources that are there. So until next time, have fun and enjoy being in business. Thank you. Bye-bye.